What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 22, my team career mode for Season 1, round number 14, the Japanese Grand Prix, Suzuka Circuit. It's a great circuit. It's a circuit that I love, but it's one that we never had the most luck with on F1 2021. I remember, I think we crashed out of a race here once. We also, I believe, had a mechanical DNF. I think it was in the last season, actually, here, or the second to last season. I think we also crashed in qualifying at one point. It's just a track that it's a track that I really enjoy driving around, but we've never seemed to do great here in the previous game. Now, going into this one, I'm actually going to put a facility marketing upgrade on the car, because I think that'll help with, going into next season. We're going to be trying to get a better driver next season, so I think, boosting up the marketing facility will help with that. Now, obviously, last time out, we realized that we found out that aerodynamics and chassis are going to be having a regulation change for next season. So we're going to go through and probably stop upgrading the car, and instead, towards this last part of the season, only the last 3 races, we're going to be adapting a bunch of parts, so we're going to go through with that. But big retirement announcement: Sergio Perez is going to be retiring from the sport at the end of the season. That's a big shock. Out of all the drivers to retire, in this first season so early on, Perez was not the one that I thought would be the first to retire. So no more Sergio Perez after this season, which is going to open up a big driver market thing here, because of course, big seat of Red Bull available for next season. And as we look at the R&D, Mercedes and McLaren jumping up closer to those top 2. Everybody else still pretty much where they were. Everybody taking little gains. We actually had an aerodynamic upgrade come through for this race. And that's the one that you saw that I adapted right at the end, because once it came through, I had enough points to then adapt the part. So we will still have it for next season. So that's really going to be our focus now. We probably won't be putting any more new upgrades on the car for the rest of the season. We'll just be adapting aero and chassis upgrades to hopefully maybe jump up into the midfield for next season, because that is the goal here for sure. So yeah, qualifying, it's another wet qualifying. I don't know what's going on here. We had literally the first half of the season, we didn't even have a wet qualifying or a wet race. I think we might have had one wet qualifying. Didn't have any wet races until Silverstone, round 10. So, after the halfway point. And now we're just having wet race after wet race, wet session after wet session, because it's another wet qualifying here at Suzuka, Japan. Full wets as well, very, very wet. And it looks like the race is going to be quite wet as well, going off the weather forecast. So could be a similar kind of thing to Monza, fully wet quali, fully wet race. Looks like there may be a slight dry patch in the race, but it is looking like it's going to be mostly wet. So I've gone for a wet setup on the car, because that's what the forecast is telling me. Of course, those forecasts not 100% accurate, but usually they're pretty damn close. So a wet setup, I figured, was the way to go, because it looks like it's going to be wetter than it is going to be drier. So that's what we've gone for here. As for our lap, well, this was actually my first flying lap, which ended up being my quickest lap, and it felt like a decent lap. It definitely wasn't amazing, but on my second flying lap, well, took a little bit more speed through turn 1 here, because I didn't get it quite right on lap 1, just didn't quite take enough speed. But then we get a little bit caught up on the curb, and we go into the wall and break our car. We didn't get a chance to set a second flying lap. It is not good for us there. So I guess our bad luck at the Japanese Grand Prix continues. We do qualify P20, so we still beat Latifi and my teammate Liam Lawson, and I don't think I was going to be getting out of Q1 anyway. But yeah, not really the way I wanted qualifying to end.
Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issei Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? We're southwest of the city of Nagoya today at the unique figure of 8 Suzuka Circuit. 3.6 miles and 18 corners make up a lap here, with average speeds approaching 136 miles per hour. DRS will be available, of course, into the potential passing opportunity at turn 1, although the best place for overtaking will be through the 130R and into the final chicane. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Ricciardo, George Russell and Fernando Alonso. Sainz, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Magnussen, Bottas and Sebastian Vettel. Perez, they've taken a grid penalty. Hamilton, Shaw and Gasly. Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Latifi, Joe, Liam Lawson and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davison joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you here with us today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Alright, so formation lap time, and as you can see, it's very dry at the moment. There's a little bit of cloud in the sky, but it's looking quite dry. And this isn't what I was expecting, because the forecast said that it was pretty much going to be wet, and a good chance of being wet for most of the race, with potentially a dry patch in the middle. Well, we're starting completely dry here, so I'm a little bit worried that we've now got a wet setup on the car. I've been able to modify it a little bit within Parc Fermé regulations, but we've essentially got a wet setup here. So I'm not sure how we're going to go. We're starting P13, I think, thanks to some grid penalties for other drivers, to 5 red lights for the Japanese Grand Prix, and we are underway. We've got Lewis Hamilton in front of us. It's not the best start for us as we get a little bit bogged down off the start. Gasly is alongside us on the right there. We're going to go 2x2 round turn 1 here. It is a very scary corner with all going like this, and we actually have Lance Stroll who's starting on the soft tyres. We've got a mixture of people starting on the mediums and on the softs. We have gone for the mediums, which seems to be the favoured option. There's only, I think, about 5 drivers that are starting on the softs. Everybody else is starting on the mediums. But as we get a little bit too close to the curb there, we've lost out quite a lot to Gasly here, and now we're trying to defend from Stroll, who is, I mean, he's in a quicker Aston Martin, and he's on the soft tyres, but he is now battling away, as you can see in the top left there on the timing screen sort of thing, that he was battling a little bit with Schumacher. And as we have a look through the hairpin, we have Gasly a little bit compromised by the couple of cars in front of him having a battle, that we managed to have a look around the outside, but we can't quite get anything done at that point in time. But we're just going to now tuck up right behind him, because we're now back in this fight once again. Having a little bit of clean air actually helped us a little bit through that middle sector, and we're now a little bit wonky around the final, well, not the final corner, around that corner, going onto this big long straight up to 130R, is it, or 180R? I can't remember. It's this very fast left-hander here. It probably is flat out, but I was a little bit hesitant there with Gasly up ahead. We get good braking into the final chicane, and we are still very much in this. Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap. He still leads the way from someone else in second. It was Lando Norris, and we're actually going to have a look at the start here, because Norris does not get a great start from the front row of the grid. Great position for him to start from, but Verstappen has beat him into turn 1, and he's going to try and go around the outside of that first kind of hairpin corner, and Norris gets it all sideways and all caught up, and unfortunately has to back out and let Verstappen through. So Norris now down to third, with his teammate Daniel Ricciardo in fourth. So looking like a good result for McLaren at the moment. As on to lap 3, we are now sizing up a move on Gasly. We're going to go once again around the outside through turn 1. He slightly turns into us into turn 1 there, but don't think there's any damage. My driver puts his hand up. We get caught up on the curb, but we're going to go side by side once again through this section here. It's a great battle between me and the gas man, but we managed to get the position. Great little battle there for us. Definitely want more of that to come. Just up ahead of us, we have Lewis Hamilton trying to make his way through the field after taking a grid penalty, and he now finds himself in a battle with his former teammate at Mercedes from last season. Valtteri Bottas as they go side by side into the final chicane here. Great battle between these two. Bottas putting up an amazing fight here because that that Alfa Romeo, sorry, not quite as quick as the Mercedes, but these two have got a compromise run off the corner. We've got DRS, we're going to get ourselves past Hamilton, and for some reason Bottas really goes slow into the first corner, and we managed to zoom up the inside of him. That is 2 cars into 1 corner there, and we're past Hamilton and Bottas, so that is great stuff for us. Hamilton behind us though, still trying to make a move on Bottas as they go side by side into the fast left-hander, and then Hamilton can't quite get the move done, but Bottas locks up into the final chicane. Hamilton's going to try and find his way around the outside. He's now got the inside for the final corner, and I think he might have just about pulled that off. But now you've got Pierre Gasly in the background there. He's now going to try and make a move on Valtteri Bottas into turn 1, potentially having a look at Hamilton as well, but I don't think he'll get that, but he will just about, I think. I don't think he did actually. I don't think he quite got the move done on Bottas, but very good racing between everyone there. At the front of the field, Charles Leclerc still leads from pole position. Max Verstappen now in second place after getting Lando Norris off the line, but Norris still in contention there in third place with Daniel Ricciardo fourth, and I think you've then got, who's in fifth? I'm not 100% sure. You've got George Russell back there in fifth or sixth in the Mercedes. But all these guys here very, very close. Yeah, George Russell actually in P5, so he's had a decent start to this race as well. As we continue on here, we're losing quite a lot of time to Perez and Magnussen, who are the cars up ahead. We're now actually sitting in P9 after a few of these soft runners have come into the pits for their first pit stop. So we're actually running in the points somewhat legitimately. I mean, once we come into the pits, those guys will probably be back ahead of us again. But lap number 12 onto 13, the leaders are into the pits. That is Leclerc in. It's a little bit slow getting the wheels off for that Ferrari. Verstappen has a very good pit stop, and I think he may have got in front. Yes, he has. Max Verstappen takes the net lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. He's now gone from third at the start of the race. He got past Norris right at the start. He's now leading the Japanese Grand Prix. That is big for him and Red Bull in this title. It's going to be difficult for Red Bull to bring it back in the Constructors, but for the Driver Championship, Verstappen's still very much in this. For us though, when we come in, it's a very slow stop on the rear right there, and Bottas has managed to jump us in the pits. That is so unfortunate. We got that really nice little move on him and Hamilton, but now it's all come undone with Bottas overtaking us in the pits thanks to our team having a bit of a bad pit stop, just the rear right not quite coming off quickly enough, and that's lost us out to Bottas. But we're just going to try and soldier on here as we now have a look. Lando Norris went 1 lap later than the leaders into the pits. He almost comes out ahead of Leclerc, but not quite. He doesn't quite have the grip on those cold hard tyres when Leclerc's tyres are all heated up, and he still has to settle for third. But it is now Verstappen from Leclerc from Lando Norris. As we then come round, a few other cars come into the pits. We're going to make a beautiful round the outside move on Schumacher. We have a look at Tsunoda as well. These guys have just come out of the pits and their tyres are very cold. We have now heated our hard tyres up, and we're definitely quicker than Tsunoda through this kind of S's section, but we just can't make a move there. It's such a difficult place to make a move, even in conditions like this. So we're going to try and do it off this back straight here as we go through the fast left-hander, and then we're going to just about go to the outside into the chicane, try and outbrake him into the chicane. We don't quite do it though. We're side by side with Tsunoda. There's a few droplets of rain on the visor. We don't quite manage to get the move done there, but it's okay because we're going to have DRS as we come down the start-finish straight. We go to the inside. He doesn't defend too hardly here. Usually the AI go really defensive to the inside when you try and make a move on him. Tsunoda doesn't quite do that as aggressively, and we get to the preferred inside line, get to the outside before the corner, and we are ahead of him as well. At the front, and Verstappen still leads the way, but Leclerc looks like he's got a bit more pace here. He's actually going to go to the outside of the fast left-hander. I'm not going to call it 180 or 130R because I can't remember which one it is. It's one of the two. I think is it 130R? I don't know. I don't want to mess it up, say the wrong thing. So I'm just going to say the fast left-hander. But alas, Leclerc's managed to get the move stuck, and he's back into the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. So that is big for him and Ferrari in this championship, especially with Carlos Sainz not way down the order, but he is a bit further back. So this is a time for Leclerc to get one up on Sainz once again here, as now the rain is really starting to fall down, but it doesn't look like it's quite time for him to jet. As you can see on the right there, Sebastian Vettel has come into the pits. He is the first driver to go onto the intermediate tyres, but I'm just going to wait this one out, because I think we made a mistake in the previous race, and maybe a little bit in Belgium in Spa as well, of coming in too early for those intermediate tyres. So we're going to just wait it out here, but the leaders are now into the pits. But Verstappen is slow. He gets cut off by the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz in the pits there. That is a terrible, terrible pit stop for Red Bull and Verstappen. He actually looked like he had a good pit stop, but then got held up, couldn't get released because Sainz was coming in. Ferrari have done a masterclass of work there, and now Norris is back up into P2. Verstappen's back down to P3, and Leclerc still leads the race. So this is now a legitimate three-way battle for the win, as we have a great pit stop here, and we're back ahead of Bottas again. So Bottas managed to get the cut on us, get the kind of jump on us in the pits last time out. This time we've had a really good pit stop, maybe a slightly slower one for Bottas, and we managed to jump back ahead of him again. We almost got out of the pits ahead of Schumacher, but unfortunately he's just about managed to get in front. We managed to stay with him for quite a while here, but unfortunately after a few laps, he does manage to pull away, and we can't quite keep with the German in the Haas. But now our goal is to just stay ahead of Bottas and keep P13. We have a look further up the grid, not a whole lot further up the grid though, because it's Lewis Hamilton on the back of Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton's in P11, Vettel's in P10, currently scoring the final point in this race. And I mean, you can see Hamilton's pretty much pushing Vettel through the whole S section, and down here it is so close between these two. You can see that Hamilton has more pace than Vettel in the Aston Martin, but he just can't make a move, especially in these wet conditions. It's so difficult for him. So at the moment, unless he can do something in a few laps, looks like Hamilton will not be scoring in this race, which is pretty big for him. I mean, he's not in the championship fight, but he's, you know, he's up there for a top 5 finish in the championship if things can go his way in these last few rounds. As we continue on lap number 25, and we're still doing pretty well. We've lost a lot of time to Schumacher. He's actually catching up to Hamilton and Vettel. And, you know, we managed to kind of keep Bottas at bay for a few laps, but in these last couple of laps, Bottas is starting to now catch us. We're starting to lose a bit more grip towards the end of this race, and yeah, we've got to try and defend for our life on these last couple of laps. On the last lap of the race, well, Verstappen kind of managed to claw back a bit of the gap between himself and Norris, but Norris just did a great job defending. He drove well in the wet conditions. As you can see, right at the end of this race, the rain has pretty much stopped by this point. But we are all, of course, still on the intermediate tyres because there's no point changing this late on. But Lando Norris will come home P2. It's his first podium of the season, and McLaren's first podium as well. It's the first podium that isn't a Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull, so that's great for McLaren, great for Lando Norris. Of course, in my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, Lando Norris won here in Season 1. It was actually his first race win here in Japan in Season 1 in F1 2021. Doesn't quite manage that this time, but he gets second place. We end up just about defending from Bottas and come home in P13, exactly where we started, but plenty of action in this race, plenty of battles. It was a fun race. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a more interesting race than Monza last time out, and yeah, I think it was a good one.
Not just victory today then, but the championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had, and congratulations to the whole team. Tell me, Anne, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
So Charles Leclerc wins the Japanese Grand Prix. Lando Norris comes home P2. Awesome to see the orange McLaren up there. And Max Verstappen comes home P3. So we've got 3 different teams on the podium. That's always an exciting thing, especially after, I'm pretty sure, 2 Red Bull 1-2s in a row. Best they can manage this time is 3rd, and I think it might have been like 5th or 6th, to be honest, for Perez. It wasn't the best race for him, although he did have a group penalty and started in P11, and he did a damn sight better than Hamilton, who started P12 alongside him. Okay, so it's P8 for Perez, so actually not that great, but still better than Hamilton. Carlos Sainz comes home P4 with Ricciardo in P5, so it's still a good result from McLaren on the whole. We end up P13, Lawson P21, actually no retirements in this entire race, so Lawson does manage to legitimately at least beat Latifi, so that's something, but yeah, Lawson definitely not showing amazing pace at this point in the time. There's only been really one race where he's shown some pretty good pace. And that's been about it. In the Constructors' Championship, no changes here, although Ferrari have clinched the Constructors' Championship, so they are Constructors' Champions for 2022. We still sit in P9, but yeah, Aston Martin only 2 points behind us now, so it's going to be close between us, Aston Martin, and potentially AlphaTauri, because they're only 4 points ahead of us as well. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.